All right. Good afternoon, Women Rock Switzerland. I am so excited to be here with Marianne Voutyras. I'm Michelle Giuliano. I'm one of the co-founders of Women Rock Switzerland and Salt Consulting and Communications. That's Denise Nickerson behind me in the image, this false image, but this fake background. But she is the visionary behind Women Rock Switzerland. And together with Esther Berkey, we produced an Amazon best-selling book called Inspired Journeys, featuring 31 authors from this incredible community. And in fact, over 100 women were involved in the creation of this book, including the marketplace. All of those members helped bring this book to life, and then together and collectively and with your action, we brought it to Amazon bestseller status in 2022. There is an inspired interview series that you can follow, and I'll be sure to put in the chat notes, where you can join online in YouTube and you can see all of the interviews that have already taken place. Today, I want to share with you about Marianne Voutyras. She wrote a chapter called No Limits, and boy, has she lived it. Marianne is a business owner. In fact, she has two businesses. One is an offline business with properties in Ticino, and the other one is, I think, the real center of her heart. It's called soul-business.ch. That's where you can find it online, Soul Business. Marianne has two grown children. She has been a single mother. She became a fitness trainer after her 50th birthday. She's an ocean skipper. She's a black belt in karate. She started karate months prior to a drastic knee injury. She comes back from the knee injury and makes it to the Masters European Championship in the Netherlands in 2022, where she was a fighter and fought her opponents gallantly. She has studied psychology and pedagogy before working for Swiss Air. And I think she writes that she spent 20 years in Swiss Air, where she was both a load planning and a station manager for the company before it was grounded, at the same time as she got divorced. And I don't want to share her entire story, but it's one of the best openings in the book, in that she basically gives us 8 paragraphs of beautiful, clean writing that is traumatic, with the death of a mother when she was 6. I'm so sorry. And gallant. And then she says, and now my story begins. And then we get the most amazing story. So if you don't have a copy of Inspired Journeys, you're missing out on the chance to learn from real women who are alive in this community, who are sharing their stories of heroism, of journey. Marianne is a Bernese native. She is one of the Swiss women in this otherwise incredible international community. And we're very, very proud to know you and to have this chance to interview you. Thank you for being with me, Marianne.
I thank you that I can be here. Thanks.
I wanted to ask you just kind of right up front. I mean, it was a long project, right? To decide to share your story, to then write your story, to choose a story, what to write. I mean, there's so many ways, and we're only given, 1,500 words or 2,500 words, whatever we ultimately settled on. And it's hard to choose when you've lived a life as rich as yours. Do you go deep in one story? Do you go broad? What ultimately pushed you to write this story? Why did you take part in the book?
Well, first of all, because I thought that my story could give hope to other people. That no matter where you stand right now, you have always the chance to change it for the better. And I think that was my main reason why I chose this story, this particular story of my life. I could have chosen 100 others, but I think that was the most, this story shows in a very clear way that it's up to you if you want to change your life, yes or no.
And it's so powerful, because at the same time as this divorce happens and your employer of 20 years is grounded and you lose faith in the new organization, you decide to pack up and move to an entirely different city with your children as a single mom and rebuild and start again. and you had to really start again. I mean, it's not every woman who goes back to cleaning or back to organizing lives, especially from an executive position, and a noteworthy, high IQ, high status, high intelligence. You speak 5 languages. You're kind of incredible. And and then this injury happens, and you have to rebuild from scratch. You have, I think it's really powerful. There's a moment in the book where you say, I have to ask for help from bed. And if it hasn't happened to you before, listeners, there is a chance that that happens to you going forward, that we need to reach out for help and ask for help with limited capacity. And so movement and the notion of movement is a really important aspect of the health journey of your story. And then this incredible empowerment, because you have every measure of success that I can see, from financial to relational, to, yeah. Tell me about movement and how movement, and coming back to the body helped you to regain yourself.
Well, um, as long as I lay in this bed and I told myself that I was not able to move, I was not able to do one single step without my crutches. So I had always my hands full. I couldn't carry anything. I couldn't, without my crutches, I was not able to do one single step. So in my mind, I told myself I'm not able to move. And this does something to your brain, does something to your mind. It closes down, it shuts down, because you think you're the victim, there's no way out. The less you move, the less you believe in yourself. And I was fortunate enough that I had a really great physiotherapist who told me, well, you can't move your leg.
But you can move everything else.
But you can move everything else. So why don't we start focusing on everything else and then go to your leg? Which was nothing else but the law of attraction, because where your focus is, you create in your life. So I started, and in the beginning, I said, well, it's not worth it because all I want is to move my leg. I know that the rest is functioning, but all I want is to be able to do a couple of steps without my crutches. But the more I moved the rest of my body, the more I was also able to move my leg. The more I got faith in myself again. I got visions, I got opportunities, which are the more you move your body, the more your brain, your mind moves, because you're not closed in your four walls, but you start opening up. And I think that was one of the main learnings that I had, that even if your body shuts down, don't focus on what's not working, but focus on what's working.
I think that's so powerful. In my sports background, I'm a former Ivy League rowing coach, and I know that when we had an injury, there are so many people ready to pathologize, and the medical system seems built and geared towards protect, safeguard, lockdown. And I'll never forget meeting the first time I met with a movement specialist, whose job it was to create and remind and return even extremely injured people back to movement as fast as possible, even if you're cycling with your arms in your bed, and or working
Yeah.
breath if you're really limited. And but coming back to movement, getting back into a swimming pool if you can't stand or walk or move, or and finding these adaptive ways, so that, like Stephen Covey says, you put a little coin in the piggy bank of confidence that you went to your physical therapy today. And you know what? I went to my physical therapy yesterday, and now I'm starting to believe, oh, I can do this thing called therapy, and I can do this thing called recovery, and I can believe again in my body, and I can feel the endorphin rush of moving something or feeling proud about something, and that can restore my faith. So this soul work is really important.
Of course, yeah.
I want to learn more. So I'm gonna dive. I'm gonna, I'm gonna dive in. When you're feeling, so I mean, you leave us off with this anticipation of having made in the story. You made the European Championship team. You go to you're a part of the master's program. In our pre-call, you've just shared with me now that there were actually two teams. There's the team of the kata and the team of the kumite or
Kumite.
kumite. Is it this?
Kumite.
And so you're on the fighting team.
I'm on the fighter team.
You got to go to this summer camp, which I feel like is a great opportunity to be around other practitioners of karate who got to the highest levels like you did. And so what is so empowering about your story is this injury happens just months after you discover karate through your daughter, who's like, Mom, you got to go. You got to go. You're going to like it. And then you don't only like it, you love it and you want to become, the top student in the class. And then you have this injury and you feel robbed, as everybody does from this new identity and this new passion and this new love. So when you're down and out now, when you're feeling low now, how do you turn things around for yourself?
Well, I hardly ever feel low.
So talk about that. How do you get to be the kind of person who is either living so much in gratitude, or how do you live that this not feeling low is, or that it's so uncommon? How do you cultivate that?
Well, when I was lying there in bed and not able to move, I read the book The Secret, The Law of Attraction, and I started to practice the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is very, very simple. It says that what you think about, what you feel, and what you focus on, you create. So if I feel bad, I create badness. If I feel good, I create a happy life. So every morning when I wake up, I decide that this is going to be the most beautiful day of my life. So, and even if it's not the most beautiful day of my life, tomorrow I got another chance to live the most beautiful day of my life. Yeah. So it is a decision that I make every day, sometimes every minute, even if something really bad happens or somebody, says bad things about me. I decide whether I want to be angry, and I decide how long I want to be angry. And I decide that I can change that whenever I decide to change that. And that is such a powerful learning that I had, it's up to me. I cannot change the world. I cannot change you. I cannot change anybody, but I can change myself, my way of thinking, my way of feeling. And I can do that whenever I decide to do that. And that's one of the reasons that I hardly ever have a bad day. And also I do have animals. I do have pets at home, and I have a wonderful 1-year-old stray dog. And when you look at him, you sort of have to smile. He's such a funny, chilled dog that you just have to smile. So you start. I every morning I start with a huge smile on my face, and I go out with my dog, and it's raining, it's pouring, it's snowing, it's cold, and he's a happy dog. And I ask myself, well, if he can be a happy dog even with this ugly weather, I can be a happy woman with this ugly weather. So it's up to me. I decide.
That self-possession and that decision that you make every day, I think it's what the peacemakers teach. I think it's the highest form of leadership. In fact, in the entry questions to get into Women Rock Switzerland, this community that we are part of and that has formed this book, one of the statements is, we care about conscious leadership. And people agree, I care about conscious leadership, but I think it's a totally different practice to live it and to acknowledge your phrase, I decide. I decide how I'm going to feel. I decide that any minute I can change my emotional state, that I can have emotional agility and emotional mastery. And so I love that you live it and model it with your conscious leadership. I want to pick up on this idea of conscious leadership before going to my prepared questions, because, in your offline business where you're so successful with, you have employees, it runs very effectively. It's been built on referrals by the quality of your work and the quality of your vision, and you don't take new clients easily, if at all. and,
If at all.
and and so I wanted to highlight that because that's another area where in our pre-call, you again are modeling this conscious leadership and this vision for a better world, but you're living it right now. You're not putting it in the future. And I think for Denise and I and for Women Rock Switzerland, it's one of the most important examples of mentorship, that learning through other women's stories, we can see how can we create the world of tomorrow today. And you're doing it in your business. You mentioned that self-esteem and self-care are activities that you and your employees live, though you're caring for vacation homes and rentals, which from the outside, this is not my industry, but that sounds like cleaning staff. That sounds like meet and greet. That sounds like, customer service. That sounds like there are many people who might be wealthy in Ticino who may want you to manage their properties, who might maybe not treat your employees at the highest level, and you don't tolerate that. Can you tell me about the founding of this company and your recruitment process for the mostly women or all women that you employ? Little about the vision
Well,
on
the
that.
funding was very easy. I was when I started um, being able to walk again, I had two choices. I could either rely on the social security, or I could start my own business. There was no third option because I tried to get hired, but at the time I was 51 and I was injured and I was very expensive, so nobody wanted to hire me. So I had just two options: either social security and or grow my own business, start my own business. And for me, it was very easy because social security for me is not the right energy. I'm not the kind of person that sort of waits until somebody pays you for doing nothing. So I went myself. I found my first client, and I went there and I cleaned the vacation home. So I'm not very good at cleaning, but
With a
I'm
hurt
quite
knee
good at giving
in your recovery. With a
I
hurt
was
knee and in your recovery.
during
Yeah.
recovery. I'm very good at giving the people this faith that they can rely on me. I told them easy. I speak Italian, I speak German, I speak French, I speak English. If you need somebody that's living there, my clients mostly are people from Germany or Swiss German part of Switzerland. They have a vacation home in the Italian part of Switzerland. And they are, if there's something wrong with the apartment or the house, it takes them 3 hours at least to come down to Ticino and then check, and then maybe there's nothing, and they have to go back 3 hours to the northern part of Switzerland. So I told them, hey, I'm living here and I'm taking care of it. And they were so glad that they finally found somebody they could rely on, that they told their neighbors, and the neighbors told their friends, and so within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I had too many customers to be able to clean and to prepare everything for the next guests, to do that on my own. So that was when I started looking for employees. And for me, it was so clear that I wanted to make this difference. I didn't want to hire people from Italy and pay them almost nothing. But I wanted to give, especially women over 45, this opportunity. In Switzerland, you don't have to worry about money. Money is always coming from one or the other source. But what they lack is the value of themselves and the value of their time. And that's what I wanted to give them back: self-esteem. That they realize that they are a valuable member of our community, that they are not just sit at home. And usually women 45, children leave their homes and they sit there alone and they feel not used, they feel useless. And giving them an opportunity to show that they are not useless changes so much. It gives them hope again. Even if they work just a couple of months in my business and they change for the better, that's perfectly okay with me. It's the most. I had this woman. When I hired her, it was 12 years that she lived on Social Security. I always remember the first time that we worked together. We worked in a very small apartment overlooking Lake of Lugano. Beautiful, beautiful view. And I told her, could you just do the vacuum cleaning and then check the windows if they need to be cleaned? And I was cleaning the kitchen. And she was looking out of the window. And I thought, yeah, I can understand. It's a beautiful view. So I finished cleaning the kitchen and I started cleaning the bathroom. And she was still looking out of the window. And then I went to her and I said, what are you doing? And she said, for almost an hour, I keep thinking if this window has to be cleaned, yes or no. So that was when I realized that this woman did not have any relation between time and money, because she got time. She got loads of time. That's when I said, I would love to work with you. I pay you a fixed price and you clean the apartment. And she worked to perfection for 2 years. And then she wrote me a letter. And she told me, Marianne, you gave me back the hope, the courage to apply for a job in my field. And I stood there in front of my new employer. And when he asked me, I said, yes, I can do that. I had this self-esteem that I can do it. And I'm so sorry that I have to quit my job because you gave me this very special opportunity that nobody in 12 years gave me. And for me, that was heaven. That was one of the greatest experience I had. It's really that what I want to do, to give these people this opportunity to find faith and to do what they love and to grow and get up to their own feet again. And that's what my business stands for.
I think it's a powerful story.
Yeah. And then, we work with energies, so we never clean. We always prepare for the next guest, which has a complete different energy. And when we feel sort of, then I tell people, hey, look where we are working. Other people come on vacation here and we're working. So we are so privileged. And it's a wonderful team. I love every single girl in my business, and I'm very privileged to have them in my team.
Absolutely. I think it's a powerful story because I think as well, we don't see how, I know people who are on the RAV and taking Social Security, and they work really hard actually at applying for jobs, and they have degrees and they speak languages and they are very highly educated. And there is a slipping through the cracks. So part of the conscious leadership that I really appreciate in what you're modeling is that you're catching these people who, for whatever reason, society is ready to reject. And I think this story as well, on the one hand, you can think, why is this woman looking at this window so long? And I think it really underscores something that happens to people as confidence erodes. so do the power to make a simple decision. I could have cleaned 10 windows in this hour, but meanwhile, I'm unable or incapable, or I've stopped taking action.
Mhm.
And so I like that there's this parallel between your body connection and movement to the taking action again in a job or in a role or in a functional role in society, and how those little moments rebuild us and
Yeah.
allow us to come back to our confidence and maybe again back to ourselves and maybe to risk or to try and to stand and to shake the hand of a new employer who's more in line with our competencies again. So I think that's extremely powerful. And you had also said, in addition to this, that these women that you have hired, they run your business as effectively as you can, and they're better cleaners. And so
Definitely.
and it allows you then to stay really fully centered in soul business. So I wanted to ask, how do you identify culturally?
Well, I'm 100% Swiss. Swiss dog.
Stamped and approved.
Stamped. I think Switzerland is a great country. I love Switzerland. I love because we're probably more open than lots of other countries due to all these different languages and different cultures. And I love that I can feel safe, that I could grow my kids safely. I don't have to be afraid to go for a night walk with my dogs. It gives so many opportunities that in other countries I wouldn't have. So I'm very, very Swiss, even if I have a Greek name. So I'm still Swiss.
No, that's great. And you've lived now in at least two cantons that I know about, but maybe more.
Oh yeah, I grew up in Canton Bern, of course, and then I moved to Zurich. And in 2002, I moved to Ticino.
Yeah.
And now I have a vacation home in Olten, which is in Canton Solothurn. My
Beautiful.
kids live here, so it's great to have a vacation home here.
Perfect. Perfect. And congratulations on launching these children into the world effectively. I want to ask, when I've had the privilege to reread your story many times because I was part of the editing team, and today I reread it, and so I could be prepared for today's interview. You mentioned that you reread it recently. What is it like, or what has it given you to have written it and to now have a book? Is it something that contributes to you or your business or your children or your legacy in any way that matters?
Well, I think that was, you know your story, but once you have to put it into words that people do understand, it's like reliving it. And in my case, lots of pieces fell in place. So it was a very deep inner work that I did during the process of writing this, of putting into words this story, because people tend to, to think just, oh, I think about my past, but really put it into words has a complete different energy. So for me, it was very healing, the process of writing my story, especially this part of when I was feeling. Maybe in the book it doesn't show that much, but I was so completely crushed on the ground at the moment when I had this bad injury, and I lost my job, and I lost my partner, and my kids, they left. I told them, go to your study in Zurich, and don't stay here. I will manage. But I was far away from managing anything at that time. So and that helped a lot. It was really healing during the process of writing that, because I didn't focus on that point, but I could see the way that I walked, the path that I made into a better life. And I could also understand why this injury had to happen. and that was very healing for myself. And I would tell everybody, if you have a point in your life where you struggle with, try to put it into words, try to write it down, try to make a story out of it, and try to share it with other people, because it helps you to cope with it.
I think when I was asking around about what is the power of telling your own story, because even though I was I had very good feminist reasons why I want women to tell their stories and be part of the AI, and, to be seen and heard, and why I want underrepresented voices to be elevated, and why I want all these stories to take flight. But then I came to myself and I was like, why should Michelle write a story? and, and, and mine is, there's always some danger, right? There's a risk, what can happen when you release this story, when it's personal, when it impacts other people's lives, when it impacts your children, when it impacts power dynamics in a family system or a societal system. And I think that everybody that I interviewed, not only people part of this book, but people who weren't able to be part of the book, and people that I admire and who wouldn't have been appropriate, who didn't come from Women Rock Switzerland, but everybody that I interviewed said that the number one reason to write your story is for your own healing journey. The number two reason is to let it go, is to let it go to the world and to own your truth. I think it's Virginia Woolf says a feminist is someone who tells the truth about their lives, and she doesn't mean necessarily a woman, right? A feminist is someone who tells the truth about their lives, someone who's willing to be transparent. And I think this is part of the bravery that I really respect in all 31 women who took part in this process. And thank you very much for being part of it. I guess I'd ask you, when it comes to the book or the teaming or the project, or or this releasing of the story, what is something that you're grateful for as a consequence of having been part of the process?
Well, I had lots of reactions to this to my chapter of the book, because when it came out, people didn't know that much about me. I was quite new on the market, and they often said, you gave me hope. You gave me hope that I can change for the better, because I'm just one of them. I'm nothing special. I'm not a big shot, whatever. I'm just a simple woman that made her way through life, and this being able to give hope to other people is one of my key messages. That's what I want. That's what I want to do in my life, to give them hope, to give them the strength that they can do it, to give them the courage that they try, and that was one of the biggest satisfactions that I had when this book came out, that people sort of reached out to me and told me, wow, I try now.
I think this is the best reason for writing it down, right? I think in the way you describe your practice, it's really about peace and about conscious leadership of self, and owning your choices and decision making. And you can't pull people to change their lives. They have to have their own arrival, and stories are one of the best ways to invite people into the idea that they could imagine a new reality for themselves. It's an invitation to come into your life, and also as the reader, it happens in our own mind. So it becomes part of us. It's hard to be a reader and to not absorb a story if you're reading with attention. So I think it's very beautifully said what you did. Let me ask you what you're working on now. What is tell us about Soul Business. Tell us about your focus or about your plans.
Soul business is my soul business. Is what really I'm passionate about. It's to give people the faith that they can change their lives. It's a mentoring business. I usually work with women, but I also work with men, and it's almost everywhere, same problem. It always starts with self-esteem, and it starts with not believing in themselves, in their capabilities. And that's where I really work with the people. And I also have some keynotes. I was on different stages and love that as well, to share my stories with lots and lots and lots of people, to give them this maybe idea that they could look at their lives and be honest to themselves and ask themselves, does this really belong to me just the way it is now? Is it me? Is it the way I want to be? And if there's a big yes, then enjoy it to the fullest. And if there's a slight no, or even a big no, change it.
So this is something that you did in your story. You actually write it down that that you realized you were living your husband's life or your husband's dream, and this is what prompted the divorce,
Yeah.
at least according to the story. And so I think it's powerful. How did you know prior to injury, prior to everything, and maybe it's tied to, in my imagination, it could be tied to the death of your mother so young, giving birth to your sister, which is just horrible. But how did you know that life is precious, that you just get this one life, and that you should live your life and not someone else's life? Because I think that's something a lot of people miss.
Well, first of all, the death of my mother, that was one of the biggest presents that I had, because I was so young. I was 6 years old when she died. And even people told me she's gone. She was not. I could feel her, I could smell her, and I could talk to her for ages, until I was about 29. I think the last time I spoke to her, and she answered was just a couple of days before I gave birth to my daughter. And this gave me this faith that there's something more. There's something that you can't see, but you can feel it, and you know that it's there, and which helped me through lots and lots and lots of things. This faith that you're never alone. Even if it feels alone, you're not. And when you feel that you're not on your path, life will always show you. It will try to tell you, hey, you're on the wrong road. Turn around. And if you don't, then it will show you in a different way. And if you don't turn around, it will stop you, as I did with my big injury. It stopped me. I had to look, and I had to change, because the path I was on was really wrong for me. It was wrong. It wasn't healthy for me. And today, I think it was one of the biggest gifts that I had in my life, that first of all, I had the faith that there was something more. I was never alone. And second of all, that the life stopped me, because the way it changed the last 10 years, I was injured in 2013, so it's 11 years now. The way my life changed is something that I would never have dreamt of before. And I have this faith now that when I can dream it, I can have it. Whatever it is, I can dream it. I'm able to dream it. I'm able to see the picture in my mind, then I can have that in my life.
You've worked on it, right? I mean, I think it takes this directing your focus and then taking steps in that direction. Because, you didn't become a black belt without work. You didn't become a sea captain without work. You didn't become a two-time business owner without some decision making and some action. And so I love that you direct your focus, and I love that you commit to action. And I really honor the fact that you're talking about your inner mother, and this inner voice and this connection to your actual mother, wherever she is. I'm putting her inside, but maybe she's all around, or was at that time. But the fact that you had this incredible coping strategy to keep and guard and cultivate an inner mother for yourself was really powerful. And I think it's really profound wisdom.
Yeah, it helps you a lot. It's some call it God, some call it universe, some call it energy, higher self, whatever. It's because probably because I was so young when it happened, and I could still feel this energy of my mother. I think for me it was natural, it was normal, I didn't doubt this. If you get in contact with this years later when your brain is developed and you start but I don't have proof of that, it's sort of I can maybe feel it, but I don't have facts and figures and proof. Then you probably have a harder time to implement this in your life as a natural thing. And for me it was very easy because I grew up with it. So
There's fortunately research is catching up. There's a lot of research to show that, in fact, I've lost both of my parents now, and I speak about them in the present. And
yeah.
and there's research to show that through stories, since we're talking about writing and journaling and connecting to stories and connecting with women's stories in this case, because all of us need to read more women. All women, all men need to read more women. I read some horrible fact when I started doing these interviews. It was something like of the top 10 best-selling female authors of all time, including all the names you know, top 10 best-selling female authors of all time, only like 10% of men ever read them. And we women are also reading more men and quoting more men and putting men forward more often than we put women forward. And so I do think that, it's such a powerful missing hole. I don't know that I've ever read a man tell me a story about a woman looking out of a window for an hour to determine whether or not she should clean it or not. And I think there's so much brilliant psychology and compassion that even that example can cultivate. I want to ask you one more question because I think you're really conscious, just to keep bringing this word back up. But are you conscious about your legacy? Are you conscious about this life that you're living? I believe that Maya Angelou told Oprah Winfrey that none of us own our legacies. The stories are written about you after you're gone. But if you could cultivate your legacy, if you could have a main message for the world or the model or this example of living that is not in the future, you're modeling it and living it right now. You're catching vulnerable people, you're helping rebuild them one at a time, and they are doing that too through their own action and their own decisions. What is your message? What is your legacy?
Well, I think that I already did lots of lots of legacy. Just to give you one example, when I was starting with karate, we didn't have a master class. We just had like the seniors, and that was it. We had a master class for men, so master men after 40 years, over 40, they could still compete. Women couldn't.
For those not in the sports industry, masters is an age classification,
That's an age. It's an age class
and you were
above
invited to
40.
be part of the over 40 masters age
Yes,
group of the
that's
fighters.
master. That's yes, and women, they were not allowed to compete over 40. So it
Not
was
allowed, or there were no championships, or
oh,
there
they
was
were not
no.
allowed. Well, it was limited from 20 to 40, and men they had 42 open. And I was discussing this with my teacher, and I said that's not fair. It's simply not fair. I mean, why can men do and women can't? So back in 2018, I was brown belt at the time. The teacher came and he told me, "Are you in summer camp?" And I said, "Yes, of course. We have summer camp, 1 week of karate every year in summer in Locarno." And I said, "Yes, of course, I'm in summer camp." "Okay, you can compete." And I was like, "Oh God." I was not ready, not prepared, nothing. but I know I had to compete. So that was 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. And last year, it was the very first time that in Switzerland, we had, on the Swiss championships, we had master committee category. So that was something that I created, because I was so stubborn and I went to my teacher all the time. So, and I think that's what my life is about, to open doors for other women. And that's what I really want to do in my life, just to open the doors and show women there's no limit.
If you have, if you believe your story, there's no limit.
If you believe in it, if you can dream it, you can have it. You just open the doors. There's no locked door if you dare to try to knock on it.
I love it.
It says in the Bible, knock at the door and it will be open. So I knock on any door I want, and I believe that it is going to be open. It's going to open up sooner or later. And I think that's really what my life is about, to open doors for other women, to open doors for a better life, that you don't have to stick with security, which is easy, but you can dream. And if you can dream, you can have it. There's no limit.
Very powerful message. Very beautiful legacy. I think it's time to wrap up. Is there a better place to follow you and your work other than www.soul-business.ch? Do you like to create following anywhere else?
Well, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and that's my main. But yes, follow me on Soul Business. If I have new keynotes, I will put them in there. If I have new broadcasts, I will put it on there. So if you are you look at Soul Business every now and then, you will find new stuff. You will probably also find some pictures of me competing, because I still I'm active member of the Swiss national team. I not only did compete on the European Championship, but I also did compete on the last World Championships, which took place last year in August in Győr in Hungary. And
congratulations!
I can tell you that when you stand there with the Swiss flags in your hands, and you hear the voice say, and world champion is, and then you hear your name, this is an incredible feeling.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Marianne. What a great way to end this interview. All of the speaker curators, this is a fabulous speaker for you. All of the podcast hosts, if you are tuning in, I think she's a fabulous interviewee. And all of those who are looking to cultivate more soul, more confidence, more self-esteem in your life, do follow soul-business.ch to connect directly with Marianne Voutyras. Thank you so much for tuning in to this live stream, part of our Inspired Interviews series, where you can hear from the authors who have taken part in the Amazon best-selling book by Women Rock Switzerland and Swiss Made Story, with Denise Nickerson, me, Michelle Giuliano, and Esther Berkey, and the 100 women and businesses that we hope that you frequent and get to know their stories, connect with them on LinkedIn, invite them to your podcast, and invite them to your businesses to speak, pay them well, and in all ways, let's uplift and elevate and send these stories flying around the world. Marianne, thank you so much for being live with me today and with everybody else. And I will be sure to put your links in the comments below.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.